imagine the icy, desolate Arctic tundra, you might not picture living organisms hibernating underground. These creatures have been sleeping in the frozen Arctic soils for thousands of years, but now climate change might wake them up. In addition to these slumbering creatures, frozen Arctic soils contain about 1,300 trillion kilograms of carbon, which is about twice what's already in the atmosphere. While the soils are frozen, that carbon stays where it belongs, underground. But as temperatures rise, that carbon can get released as greenhouse gas. When greenhouse gas is released from the soil, the temperatures rise even further in a climate change feedback loop. People fighting climate change often overlook the enormity of this feedback loop because the organisms that are directly responsible for it are too small to see with the naked eye. Single-celled microorganisms wake up when the temperatures rise and start to eat the carbon that's been stored in the soils for millennia. There are millions of species of microorganisms in just 1 gram of soil. The species that are awake while the soils are frozen eat the carbon, metabolize it, and release it as greenhouse gas slowly. But the microorganisms that wake up as the temperatures rise eat the carbon, metabolize it, and release CO2 and methane much more quickly. Right now, we don't have enough information about these microorganisms to include them in climate models, which is a problem because that data is crucial for better predicting climate scenarios in the coming decades. To provide the information about microorganisms and their digestive issues to climate scientists, our lab has taken 3-foot-long cores of soil from several sites across Alaska and brought them to Berkeley Lab to study them. We've hooked them up to many different kinds of sensors to measure differences in the soils at these different locations. We're heating them up very carefully to mimic the natural thaw conditions. As the soils thaw in the lab, we're collecting the microorganisms, their DNA, and the gases that they release. We're learning all sorts of amazing things about the diversity and metabolism of these microscopic communities. But most importantly, we're trying to figure out what slows them down. If we can understand what lets the microorganisms keep sleeping, then one of the scientists fighting climate change might be able to figure out how to keep more of that 1,300 trillion kilograms of carbon where it belongs, underground. Thank you.